Lesson 7-4, Scientific Notation. Day 2. Our essential question is, how do you multiply and divide numbers that are written in scientific notation? So we know how to write numbers in scientific notation and standard form, and how to transfer back and forth from one form to the other. Today we're going to focus on multiplying and dividing those numbers and keeping our answers written in scientific notation. The first problem says multiply. Write your answer in scientific notation. So we have 2.5 times 10 to the third power times 3 times 10 to the fourth power. What I'm going to do is I am going to use the commutative property for multiplication. And the commutative property for multiplication side that it's okay to change the order of what you're multiplying. So I'm going to take the 2.5 and the 3 and I'm going to multiply them together, and then I'm going to multiply my exponents or my powers, 10 to the third power times 10 to the fourth power. So 2.5 times 3, we're assuming that you need to learn how to do these without a calculator. So I'm going to do all of my multiplying and dividing by hand. So 2.5 times 3, 5 times 3 is 15, carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And then remember, when you're multiplying with decimals, you look at how many digits are to the right of the numbers that you were multiplying, and you keep that total amount to the right on your answer. So there was only one digit to the right out of both of my numbers that I was multiplying. So my answer needs one digit to the right. So 7.5. And then remember what we learned when we're working with powers. 10 to the third power times 10 to the fourth power. We learned that we could add together those exponents. Oops. We learned that we could add together those exponents. So just in case you forgot why, I've expanded it for you. So 10 to the third times 10 to the fourth, this would give me 10 to the seventh power. There are 7 tens. So my final answer should be 7.5 times 10 to the seventh power. So I rearranged the terms so that I could multiply together the 2.5 and the 3, and then the 2 powers, because when you have the same base, you can add the exponents here. So we can add those exponents because the bases are the same. Now my answer, I do need to check and make sure that it's still in scientific notation. And remember scientific notation, a times 10 to the n power. A had to be a number from 1 to 9. So this decimal part right here is a number from 1 to 9. So that works. Okay, my next one says multiply. Write your answer in scientific notation using the correct number of significant digits. The correct number of significant digits. Now in this problem, right here, the decimal part, 3.5 has 2 significant digits in it. And this 7 has only 1 significant digit. So what that means is my answer, I have to go with the lower one. So my answer can only have 1 significant digit in it. So we'll keep that in mind. My answer can only have 1 significant digit. So it has to match the one that is lower in what you're multiplying or dividing. Your answer would have to match the number of significant digits that is less. So I'm going to do my regrouping, and I'm going to multiply 3.5 times 7. So multiplying these together first. 3.5 times 7, 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 3, 24. I've only got 1 digit on the right, so I need to keep 1 digit on the right. So 24.5. So I've regrouped like this. Now I can add together my exponents. So -3 plus 5 is 2. So then my final answer, I'm thinking, would be 24.5 for my decimal part here, times 10 to the power of 2. Now, that is not in scientific notation. It's not. So, if I write it out in standard form, so my 2, 10 to the second power is like 100. So I'm going to move my decimal point 2 places to the right. So in standard form, it's 2,450. So if I moved it back to scientific notation, 1, 2, 3 places it would have to go. So 2.45 times 10 to the third power, 10 to the third power. That would be my answer. Now, taking into account the significant digits piece, because you will sometimes have problems where they specify your answer has to have the correct number of significant digits. So this decimal has 3 significant digits, but I know that my answer is only allowed to have 1. So 2.45, I need to ask myself, is it closer to 2 or closer to 3? It's closer to 2. So to the correct number of significant digits, my answer would have to be 2 times 10 to the third power. 2 times 10 to the third power. In our textbook, it will not ask you to use the correct number of significant digits, but on Study Island it will. So I just want to make sure that you've been exposed to this idea, and I'm sure you will see it again in science classes in the future. Now we're switching over to division. Much more difficult, much more difficult. Okay, so we are going to divide these numbers written in scientific notation, and we are going to do some grouping just like we did with our multiplying. We are going to divide these decimal pieces, and then when we divide with our bases of 10, we can just subtract our exponents, subtract them. So that part's going to be the easy part. 8 minus 2 is 6, so we will have something times 10 to the 6th power. Now, we need to divide 3.45 divided by 2.3. Please remember, when you're dividing, that you have to have a whole number on the outside of our garage here. So, if I'm going to make 2.3 a whole number, I'm going to move the decimal point 1 spot to the right so that it's 23, and that means I'm going to have to move the other one spot to the right. So now what I'm really dividing is 23 into 34.5. Now, I don't know if I need an extra 0. I'm just going to put one on just in case. Okay, 23. Now my decimal point's going to come straight up. 23 goes into 34 one time, and that remainder would be 11. I can bring down the 5. I am going to guess that 23 times 5 might give me 115. So let's try it out. 5 times 3 is 15, carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. It did. So I can put my 5 up here, and I didn't need an extra 0 after all. So I can get rid of my extra 0. I've got 1.5 times 10 to the 6th power. And that number is written in scientific notation because 1.5, it has to be greater than or equal to 1 and has to be less than 10 because it's got to be like a single digit in front of that decimal point, so it works. Okay, our last one, I am going to do some dividing with the decimal numbers and dividing with our bases of 10. So -4, remember we subtract our exponents. -4 minus -7 turns into a chunky plus here. So -4 plus 7 equals 3. So our exponent would be 3. So it's going to be something times 10 to the third power. Now, dividing 3.066 divided by 7.3. I will need to move my decimal point over one spot to get a whole number over here outside of the garage. So move it over one right here. And we are really dividing 73 into 30.66. I'm going to put a 0 on again just in case. I can bring up my decimal point. Now, 73 does not go into 30, so it goes in 0 times. 73 goes into 306. I'm not sure how many times. So maybe 3 or 4. I'll try 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Carry the 1. 7 times 4, 28 plus 1 is 29. That looks pretty good. So 292. 6 minus 2 is 4, and 30 minus 29 is 1. Now I can bring down my 6, and 73 times 2 should give me 6 and then 14. Perfect. So 2, and no remainder. So again, I did not need my extra 0. You just never know, so I like to put it on right at the beginning, just in case. So now I've got 0.42 times 10 to the third power. Well, that is definitely not written in scientific notation. So we're going to have to do a little bit of adjusting. The 3 tells me I can move my decimal point 3 places, 1, 2, 3, to the right because it's a positive number. So it really equals the number 420. So if I put my decimal point in and then move it back, it's only going back 2 spots. So 4.2 times 10 to the second power would be accurate for my answer. Now I need to check the correct number of significant digits over here. Significant digits. This top number has 1, 2, 3, 4 digits in it, and the bottom one has 1, 2. So remember, it's the lower amount of significant digits that we need in our answer. So my answer does have 2 significant digits only, so we are good. 4.2 times 10 to the second power. Okay, you should be able to write your summary now and check the homework calendar to figure out what your homework assignment is from your teacher. Thank you.